everybody. When we were asked to be the family to speak this year, a million thoughts ran through my mind. Can I do it? Can I really get up in front of all these people and talk? Can I really relive the last crazy 16 months? And I always came back to the same conclusion. We made it through the last 16 months. I can make it through this speech. Thank you. Our crazy journey started with the surprising news that we were having twins. In the beginning, everything seemed to be going fine until we hit 22 weeks. From there, my cervix dilated and it began thinning, and I was 23 weeks and 3 days and Charlie's sac broke. At that time, we were faced with many tough decisions. If Charlie chose to come, we would have to choose to keep her in, let her pass away, and try to allow Lennox to make it further along. Would we choose to give birth to Charlie, let Lennox stay in, and pray the birth wouldn't compromise Lennox? Would we choose to give birth to both of them and put our trust in God and take this on as a family? It wasn't even a question. We weren't sacrificing one for the other. Not even a week later, the girls were both born via emergency C-section due to a prolapsed cord, and our angels made their debut at 24 weeks and 2 days on May 11th, 2013, one day before Mother's Day. I will never forget the first time I saw them. Lennox was 1 pound 1 ounce with a head full of hair, and Charlie was Lennox was 1 pound 6 ounces, and Charlie was 1 pound 1 ounce with little hair. I remember they were so tiny, noticing that their eyes were still fused shut and the oscillator was causing their bodies to shake. I remember staring at them in amazement and awe, and I could hear the voices around me telling Nick and myself that this journey would be hard, there would be ups and downs, and the chances of either of them surviving were very slim. But through all those speeches, never once did we consider death an option. We knew we were blessed with 2 fighters. A week into their short lives, our roller coaster took its first major hill downward. Lennox was diagnosed with NEC and had to be transferred to Akron Children's for surgery. The idea of this helpless 1 pound 6 ounce baby going under the knife was crazy, but something in her eyes told us she would be okay. She pulled through the surgery just to be faced with a PDA ligation a few weeks later. While all of that was going on, Charlie was still at the other hospital. For a month and a half, we made our trips from our house in New Philly to Canton during the day and Akron in the evening, just to go back home and sleep for a few hours, wake up and do it all over again the next day. On June 13th, Lennox was stable enough to be transferred back to Canton to be with her sister. We were able to spend Nick's first Father's Day all together in one location, but Lennox's stay in Canton was short-lived. On Monday, June 17th, Lennox had to be transferred back to Akron Children's for a blockage in her bowel. When we arrived, things went from bad to worse. I remember vividly the doctors walking in and out of the back of Pod 1, shaking their heads, discussing amongst themselves what they were going to do. I remember Dr. Protein grabbing me and telling me things were good, but they were going to do everything they could to save her. Next thing I knew, the surgery team wheeled in, and Dr. McCullough made me sit down and told me they were going to have to do emergency surgery at the bedside to treat compartment syndrome. He told me to kiss her goodbye because the chances of her surviving the surgery were very slim. I remember it not really sinking in, all the ideas of seeing her grow up and taking her first steps. It was just a big blur. Amazingly, she pulled through. They decided to keep her stomach open for a few days to allow room for swelling. 3 days later, she went back up to the OR to have her stomach closed and to give her an ileostomy. At that point, we finally got a room at Ronald and had Charlie transferred up to Akron as well. Over the period of the next month, Lennox seemed to be doing okay, but Charlie had numerous failed extubations, most of which were her own. In August, after a couple of bronchs, they decided Charlie would need a trach. At first, the thought of a trach is just the thought of a hole in your daughter's throat that allows her to breathe. But everyone kept saying, just watch, she'll be a brand new baby, she'll be happy, it'll be okay. We knew Charlie could handle it and would show everyone how strong she was. She went in for her trach surgery and, like everyone said, came out a brand new baby. After she recovered, you could see how happy she was. She no longer had to deal with the tube in her mouth and being tied down so she wouldn't pull it out. We could hold her how we wanted, move her on her own, and she could even try to take a bottle. Around the same time Charlie was recovering, they decided Lennox was ready to have her intestines reconnected. Right along with the other surgeries they had faced, this was just as scary. Not knowing if it was too soon to reconnect her, but fearing that if we waited till it was too late, it wouldn't be good either. However, one more time she pulled through and was happier and healthier than ever. September came and went with lots of trach classes, trying bottles, and progressing with therapy. They decided both girls would need G-tubes and Lennox needed an innocent due to her having severe reflux. For the first time, the girls were scheduled for surgery on the same day, only an hour apart. A week after the surgery, Charlie seemed very sick and everything seemed off and she wasn't herself. I remember telling Dr. Protein that I knew in my gut something wasn't right. They did a complete workup and couldn't find anything. Dr. Groh and Dr. bike decided to do a spinal tap to find that she had contracted meningitis. Through a CAT scan, they had found an abscess on her brain. I remember like it was yesterday, Dr. Fike sitting me down and telling me they did find an abscess, they weren't sure how bad it was, but she would need surgery first thing in the morning. This ranked on the list up by Lennox getting compartment syndrome as one of the scariest things that had happened. They warned us they didn't know how this would affect her brain and her development as she got older, and she could very well not have good function on one side of her body. Not surprisingly, she came out of the surgery and was awake and playing a few days later. After months and months of praying, battling insane reflux and 6 surgeries, Lennox was able to come home on a little bit of oxygen on November 29th after 203 days in the NICU. It was hard having one baby at Ronald with us and the other still in the NICU, but we made it work. Only a week after Lennox was released, Nick and I noticed that she wasn't herself. We decided to take her to the ER, and they did an RSV swab and it came back positive. She was immediately taken up to the 7th floor. Now we were bouncing back and forth between both floors, wearing gowns, masks, and gloves around both girls. Luckily, she had received a Synagis vaccine and we caught it early, so she only had to stay for a week. We were back to balancing a baby at Ronald and a baby in the NICU, but luckily it didn't last very long. On December 23rd, with all nursing in place, Charlie was released after spending 226 days in the NICU, battling what seemed like a million failed extubations and 5 surgeries. Finally, 7 months later, we had our family all together at home. Our NICU journey wasn't easy, but we said every single day it could always be worse. We were faced with many hardships, lots of tears, numerous scary times, but through all of that, we now have 2 happy and healthy 1.5-year-olds. They tell you all the time that the babies progress really well when they get home, and it's true. Lennox was taken off oxygen just a few months after being released, and Charlie is now off the vent, and we're moving towards her getting decannulated. Charlie is trying to walk, and Lennox trying to crawl. Lennox's reflux is finally under control, and she's gaining weight and growing. Both girls have glasses, but obviously refuse to wear them. Lennox was recently diagnosed with mild cerebral palsy and a rare form of epilepsy. Luckily, Dr. Belachami caught the epilepsy early and treated it, so it shouldn't be a problem as she gets older. They are completely different people with outrageous personalities. Charlie is our drama queen, who does what she wants when she wants. Like now. Lennox is our laid-back one, but still doesn't like being told what to do. It's so amazing and fun to sit back and watch them interact with one another. We truly cherish every single day we have with them and enjoy the days where we are so exhausted that we could cry, because looking back, we weren't supposed to have these days. They weren't supposed to live to be a month old, let alone celebrate a first birthday. People always ask us how we did it. How did you sit up and watch your children go through so much? How do you sit in a hospital every day without going crazy? And the answer is very simple. We did it because they did it. They fought the battle, not us. We were just in their cheering section. And when it comes down to it, you'll do anything for your children. We will forever be grateful for the wonderful people who work in the NICU, most of which have become family. To our nurses who picked up extra shifts to make us feel comfortable, held me when I cried, and continuously told me it would be okay, sat with us during surgeries, and who were always, always, always in our corner, thank you. To every single doctor who told us time and time again to trust them, who would sit with us and explain procedures a million times, who always listened when I told them I knew something was wrong, and who would stop by our bedside just to make us laugh, to try to make the scary days not so scary. Thank you. To all of our special friends who would stop in just to talk for hours, not because it was their job, but because they cared, who would take me on walks around the hospital just to get out of the NICU, who would share their chocolates and listen to me complain and turn around and make me smile and laugh. Thank you. You are all family now, and there will never be a day that I look at my girls and not think of every single one of you. Because without all of you, the 4 of us wouldn't be standing here sharing our story. Thank you to our family and friends who stuck by our sides and loved us when we weren't so lovable. We have learned so much from this journey and continue to learn more daily. Each day we are reminded ourselves that miracles do exist and we have 2 babies to prove it. So to get through each day, always remind yourself to believe in miracles, because like Walt Disney said, it's kind of fun to do the impossible. Thank you.